morning, everybody. This is Lizzie Jones, and I am your host for this week's Paper Tray Ink Make It Monday. This week we will be doing a very simple technique called Ombre sentiments. We're just adding gradient to our greetings to give them a little bit of interest and pop, so I hope you'll join me. Okay, so I'm going to start here with a sentiment from Offbeat Birthday, and I've got this in my stamp press, and I'm going to go ahead and prime it here with this eraser just to make sure it's going to take the ink really well. So I've got a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch white cardstock here. I'm going to start with my base color. So this is Weather Vane, and I'm just going to stamp once with Weather Vane just to put down the lightest of the colors that I'm going to use. So next you're going to go with the second darkest color, or your next darkest color, and I'm going to sponge on a little bit of smoky shadow. And for this technique, think of the number of colors you're using and sort of divide your sentiment into that many pieces, I guess, visually. And then you're just going to sponge on the second darkest ink on, say, 2/3. Since I'm using 3 colors, I'm sponging it on a 2/3 of my sentiment. Then I'm going to go in with True Black, and I'm going to sponge just the bottom, like, third. So like the bottom portion. So as I'm sort of sponging, I'm adding the darker color as I go down the sentiment. I'm just going to stamp this a couple of times to make sure it's nice and saturated, nice and dark. It's hard to tell sometimes when the inks are wet how they're going to dry exactly, but I know that I want to make sure this bottom line is really nice and dark, so I'm doing it just a couple of times. So that's really the technique. The rest of this video is really just me making the card. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that front panel to an Aquamist card base, and here I have one of the large ovals from the Pierced Feature Frames Ovals collection, and these flowers are from Grand's Garden. I've already die cut and stamped them. I didn't do any sort of technique-y things. They're just straight stamping, so figured I would save everybody the time watching me. I'm just placing everything right now because I'm stamping some of these small flowers from Grand's Garden directly onto my card front, and I wanted to make sure that I had the placement where I wanted it. Now I wanted to give this oval a little bit of dimension, but I didn't want to use foam tape because it was just a little too bulky. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere a couple of die-cut white cardstock ovals to the patterned paper oval just to give a little depth. Once I get that adhered in place, I'm just going to go ahead and start arranging my leaves and flowers. So I'm going to take a little bit of score tape and adhere just the sort of bottom tips of all the leaves to the card with the score tape. That will allow me to go back in and fluff up the leaves a little bit to add a touch of dimension and just a more full and interesting look. So I'm just going to add the leaves, a couple of the leaves on each side. I'm sort of going for a semi-symmetrical look. I want the arrangement to feel intentional but not super like mirrored. So I'm going with foam tape under the flowers, and I'm using 2 different flowers from the set to make sure that the arrangement doesn't feel stagnant or too similar from side to side. The small flower here, the small yellow flower, I'm going to add with 2 layers of foam tape just to make sure it pops up above the red flowers and really stands out. Here's that fluffing I was talking about. Just bending the leaves up gently with your fingertips is really all it takes. It just adds enough dimension to make your arrangement feel interesting. So I decided I needed a little sparkle in there too. So I'm using a glue pen and some clear crystal glitter to add just a little touch of sparkle to the center of the yellow flowers. And that's really all there is to it when it comes to these stamped ombre sentiments. This is a card that I made for a recent release that has a sponged and die cut ombre sentiment for a different look. Thank you so much for joining me for the ombre sentiments tutorial this week for Paper Tray Ink's Make It Monday. I hope you'll try this week's challenge and then head over to the Paper Tray Ink blog to link up your project for a chance to win a gift certificate. This has been Lizzie Jones for Paper Tray Ink. Have a great week, everybody.